Luna Capital by De Veer. This is a competitive game for 2 to 4 players. It is a drafting and tableau building game in which we are trying to create a big city on the moon. It could be on the moon, it could be anywhere else. So the theme is not super thick with this one, and that's fine. Many games we play for the mechanics and maybe even for the really good looking components. The production values are very high, are very good here, and then as you will create your city, that is, you'll create your tableau, that also will look nice. It's nice to have. Each player represents a company, a corporation that will be again building different sections of the lunar capital. They all play the same. They don't have any unique power or ability other than they have these really nice looking wooden pieces representing their ability to complete special challenges. Each game you will have 3 challenges placed there coming from this deck, and simply the game is divided into 3 phases. At the end of each phase you check to see who is the first or who are the first players to complete a challenge. If at the end of phase 1, for example, phase A, both Sandwich person, that would be me, and the Lunar person, we both completed that challenge, we both place a marker there as an indicator that we will score that at the end of the game, and now no one else can get it. So only the first player or players at the end of a phase completed those challenges get to score them. The heart of the game, however, revolves around these cards and these tiles. And yes, the game comes with these 2 dispensers / organizers made of cardboard. And that is really nice that here you place the tiles for the phases. Again, there are 3 phases, A, B, and C. And here you place the cards that go here. And then you draw them and you place them on the display so that each card will match, will be in the same section with 1 or more tiles. So 3 phases. Each phase has 4 turns. During the first turn, everybody will take turns taking a card and the corresponding tile, and then they will place that in their personal area. After everybody has taken a card matching a tile, the second turn in a phase will have each player take a card and 2 tiles next to it. The third one is 1 card and 3 tiles, then a card and 4 tiles. As simple as that. And then you remove the remaining tiles if there are any. You add the tiles, or actually you use then the tiles from phase B and do the same thing. So the game has 12 turns with this unusual pace, with this unusual idea that doesn't always go up, but it has kind of like breaks, peaks, and valleys. As at the end of one phase, you will place a card and 4 tiles, and then the following, begin the following phase, 1 card and 1 tile, and 2, 3, 4, and then the same for the last phase. Now, as for creating your town, so that's it. You get those cards, and then you will create your tableau up here. So, pretty simple. You will place a card in front of you, and you need to place the tile on a slot in a card that you already have in front of you. Now, your tableau can be of up to 3 rows, so one on top of the other. So this would be as tall, so to speak, as this tableau can possibly get. I could not add a card on top or at the bottom. So the top is 3, and then you can expand them horizontally. But here is the deal. You see that there are little numbers there? When you place a card after the first, it has to be orthogonally adjacent to a card that you already have. So the placement that I have here is legal because they're all adjacent orthogonally to one another. On top of that, when you have new cards, the order of these numbers in each row needs to be ascending from left to right. So this would be a legal placement, 1, 2, 3. This also would be a legal placement, with 3 followed by 8. But of course here I'm closing up the opportunity of placing a lot of cards. So there definitely is that element there. There you go. If I place those 2 cards there, now I cannot place this one anymore. So maybe I decide to place it here instead, next to that 3. So that's how you place your cards. Again, each time you will also receive 1 or multiple tiles, depending on what part of the phase we're in, and you simply need to place them in a slot that doesn't have anything on it. With some exceptions, there are some icons that allow you to build on them, there are some tabs that allow you to cover something else, but the default is that you need to place them on empty things. And this is the general idea, as simple as that. The general idea is super simple. Take the stuff, make a tableau, and place tiles and build it. That's it. The complexity or the nuance comes from, well, trying to complete those challenges that I showed you earlier before other people do, because those are time sensitive. And also, very important, try to place your cards in a way that will score you points. And a good way, when I teach the game, I use the scoring sheet, because just going through it shows people what scores and how much. And at the end, the player with the highest total wins the game. So for buildings of this kind, with that icon there, you look at the largest group of buildings that are orthogonally adjacent to one another. So right there, ooh, look at that. I have a group of 2 of that kind. And then I look at this section here, and that tells me how many buildings in that group are worth how many points. So right now, there will be 2. So the same for these vital buildings with those heart and that symbol there. It's all the largest group orthogonally adjacent is worth that much. Greenhouses, so with that dome is the same idea, the largest group of greenhouses regardless of the symbol that there is in them. However, the symbols in the greenhouses also score based on number of sets that you have. So for each set of all 3 kinds of greenhouses, you will get extra points. The player with the most meteorites on their tableau scores extra points. Money buildings is just a standard 2 points per. Buildings with that icon, which is the building icon, they do different things. Some they'll give you an advantage as you play them. For example, this one lets you draw cards and then you save 1 into your hand, because you will also have a hand of cards, and when you get a new one, you can choose to play the one that you just got or won from your hand. I don't think I mentioned that, but now you know. Another building with the building icon, for example, this one scores 2 points for each building with that symbol in the 8 spaces adjacent to it. So the iconography is not too intense, it's very, very well done, it's very readable. At the end of the game, each card that you still have in your hand is worth 3 victory points, and then those are the symbols for those challenges that I showed you earlier. And yes, one little detail is this marker here. After you take a card and the corresponding tile or tiles, and suppose I just took that card and the corresponding tile or tiles, this marker here goes to that space. So there is always going to be the marker there which marks the last card that was taken. All it does is that now taking a card from a space that has that marker is more expensive. Actually, yeah, there's one in-game cost. There's no pure drafting, which is if you take a card with the marker, that you have to discard a card from your hand. And that's how your hand of card may decrease during the game, and that's why having cards or a number of cards at the end in your hand at the end of the game is worth points. I guess it's just a way so that people have an incentive to get new cards every time, not to just get the last one that always comes out, to keep the things fresh. Ultimately, it feels like a bit of a random thing, just an extra challenge that there is a card that is a little more expensive. And I notice an important, interesting pattern. It's always the card that I want. That's just how it happens. So, what we have here is a fun, simple game with very good production values, with simple rules so that you can explain in 10 minutes or less, and yet they have an interesting degree of complexity because, well, the beauty is in the puzzle, of course. The game has a really strong puzzle element, and that's good. A couple of other things: if you get this symbol, you get one of these tokens that will allow you to cover one of the numbers. Oh, other cards will give you this token here that allows you to switch buildings. So what you see is that the core idea is super simple. Get a card and all tokens associated with it, and then make a puzzle based on it. Create your tableau based on that. And the general idea is so simple. And the general strategy is actually quite good, quite interesting. Mind you, I'm terrible at it. It's not just that I've never won. Didn't even come into like lunar distance, the distance between the moon and the earth is the distance between me and winning this game. But I still like it. But I still enjoy it. I think this may enter the rotation. This may be one that when, I wanna... This is like the perfect second game of the night. That's kind of like an important definition in my game night. Very often the first game of the night is a little heavier. And then I have a whole section of my collection where he plays games that work as the second game. When people are a little more tired, they still want to play something new and exciting, but they don't want to sit through a long session of teaching the rules. And this is like the perfect game because you play it in under an hour. You can teach the rules very easily, but then there's depth, there is complexity, there are interesting choices, which all come from, of course, from the multi-layers of the scoring, that everything that you do in one direction covers your opportunities, blocks your opportunities in another. The numerical things is important, of course, again, like these two to be next to each other, but that is sealing off real early on, unless I can use an effect. Going for certain things rather than others, of course, that's a choice. You're going to try to specialize in some things to score them very well. Probably trying to score a little bit of everything is not going to be too great. But then people are going to fight for the same kind of building, and the third players, quietly is building something else in the background. So there are nice interactions that come out of such a simple core of rules. And in general, this is a philosophy that I like very much in modern gaming, when the core engine is super simple and then you have a lot of interesting layers for the scoring, because that is more than enough to drive the strategy to keep me interested. The fact that the game moves fast is not of course is not a bad thing at all, although this is important. It moved fast in my group, and I was happy for that. I could totally see how there may be cases where there may be analysis paralysis that comes from this, because the information is open, especially if you're playing two players. If somebody wants to be annoying about it, they could definitely study the other player's display before they make their move, and that would be probably pretty annoying. But in general, Luna Capital is a simple game with an interesting, fun strategy. Again, the components look great and are very practical, so I'm very impressed. And I'm very pleased with Luna Capital. A really fun game and a perfect second game of game night.